So I just spent like 10 minutes trying to figure out how to get my phone to do the horizontal rather than the vertical, but it was refusing to do it. So I don't know if Facebook has changed something or what's going on, but I had everything set up to be horizontal. I got like a little thing so it wouldn't be wobbly. I had like the signs so we knew what we were talking about, and thwarted by Facebook. That's going to be on my tombstone. Thwarted by Facebook. So, hi. We're hoping that the internet works today. I'm back at my office and the internet's not great, but yeah, I'm hoping it's working. I'm hoping you guys are there. Hi guys. It's been a crazy day. I actually snuck off for part of the day and just read for a little bit because it's like it's too much launch, too much book. And it looks like a lot of people got Romancing the Inventor early. There doesn't seem a way to tell Amazon, for example, to drop a book at a specific, like time across time zones. So, yeah, some people got it like a couple hours ahead of time. Joan says my hair's red. Yeah, I change it up sometimes. I'm not a natural redhead, in case you were in any doubt. I might dye it again. I like to futz with it. So, I don't futz with the style very much, but I like to change up the color a little bit. So, hi everybody. Welcome to a Facebook Live launch. This is kind of exciting. Never done this before, so yeah, so I was just gonna, I guess, talk a little bit about the book and see if you guys had any questions. You can ask me questions about anything. It doesn't have to be the book. Everybody's clapping and saying hello. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming over and tuning in. This seems to be actually functioning, so I'm a little bit in awe of it. So we're talking about Romancing the Inventor. There it is. Because my phone camera is doing that flippy thing, I can't show you. I did this. Yeah, I printed it out and then reversed it so it was backwards so you guys could read it. I'm so crafty. Thanks for about the glass. So the glasses were a gift from a reader, actually. I get complimented on them a lot, which is great, but I can't remember who gave them to me, which is not so great. But they're awesome. They're vintage, and I had prescription lenses put in them, which is cool. They're big. They dominate my face, but I kind of like that in a pair of glasses. Uh-oh, Ty is gonna ask a ton of questions. Ty, I have the right to refuse to answer anything you ask on the grounds that I might incriminate myself. I can take the fifth. We'll call it the tithe. I am speaking, where am I speaking from? I'm speaking from my office, which is about 2.5 miles from where I live. My apartment is tiny and never very clean because I live with another person. So I really don't normally film from there. So I usually will film from my office. Yeah, it is 4:30 in the afternoon and it's been a kind of gray, slightly rainy day, but a little muggy, which is weird for us. But I am under a skylight. My office has beautiful light. So that's why I'm so well lit until it gets dark in about an hour or so. So, so I hope some of you have read the book. I promise no spoilers. Next weekend, I'll do another one of these over on my page, and then I was going to go over to the Squee group and do a spoiler live chat there for anybody who actually wanted to talk spoilers, but I thought I would give you at least a week before I did that kind of thing. It has to be next week because not rather than a couple of weeks away, because I'm going to Singapore on Tuesday. So yeah, I gotta answer all your questions before I leave. Right. I didn't really have anything prepared. I'm sorry. I just sort of relied on you guys to have something for me. So this is Madame LeFou's book. It took me a little while to write because I was struggling with the right counter person for Madame LeFou, I guess. I didn't want to give her someone like Alexia, and I didn't want to give her someone like Angelique, obviously. So, so it was important for me to give her the right, I guess the right partner is the word I'm looking for. A lot of people ask me, for example, why Sophronia ends up with Soap in the finishing school stories. Sorry, spoiler. And the reason is because Felix is the boy that you want in high school, but Soap is the boy that you need. And I think Genevieve has a learning curve for her heart that has to do with the same question. It just takes her a little bit longer. She keeps going for the wrong woman. And so I needed to give her the right woman. And then I realized that the right woman needed to go after her. So I have a question. Oh gosh, the questions are coming thick and fast. Would I ever collaborate with a fellow author on a book? I have collaborated a little bit with my friend Dan Sawyer on a book. It didn't get finished because we're both super busy, and that's always the problem when you're collaborating. But I would do it. It tends to be two point of views where we're each writing the other point of view, or like a epistolary thing like Sorcery and Cecilia where we would be writing back and forth. I'm good friends with Eitan and Donnie Colin, and they co-author, but they co-author where one of them does one whole pass and then the other one does the next rewrite. And that's not my style, so it would be a back and forth kind of collaboration if I did it. It's just a thing that, like, it hasn't come up yet, so I haven't. What I'm more inclined to do, frankly, would be kind of like an in-world anthology where I set up the world for my author friends to write in. I think that would be really fun. They could create their own side characters and write in the world, and then I would edit it. But again, it's just a matter of, like, then I'm in charge of putting together the contracts and herding cats with a bunch of different authors. So I thought about doing some collaborative stuff. I just, as is always with my career, I just never seem to have the time. Sorry, I keep reaching because I'm scrolling looking at your questions. Uh-oh, people are having problems. I'm not having technical difficulties, so if you're having technical difficulties, then, yeah, then it's your technical difficulties. I love Sorcery and Cecilia. It's one of my favorite books. Sandra wants to know, yes, you get to see a lot more of Hive Life in this novella. Do I plan to explore more with the vampires? Well, this one you get a slightly more intimate look at a vampire hive simply because Imogen is serving in the hive. So she's literally, this is an upstairs downstairs book. And that's intentional. I really wanted to explore a working class character for a change. So, but she obviously has a different perspective on Hive Life because she's a victim of that life. And Ty wants to know more about the lower class character. Well, Imogen's very practical. So Imogen knows from the get, I'm not going to spoil anything, but she knows from the get-go that she has perverted leanings, which, to use a term that would have been common in the time period. And so she has self-doubts and kind of emotional hang-ups because of that, because she's in an environment that not just doesn't acknowledge that women might be interested in other women, but just didn't really believe it existed at all. So, so Imogen has that as well as her lower class standing to deal with, but she kind of battles against her inclinations by becoming very strong-willed and developing quite a backbone. But she also has a very kind of practical outlook on the world and a survivor's outlook on the world in a way that Alexia, who's very practical, had, but Alexia was very out of touch because she was so upper crust. So it's a different kind of practicality, I guess. What? Joan says the novellas are becoming favorites. Thank you. Before any real issues start, is this your favorite relationship stage as well? I love the beginning of romances. Well, I am enough of a romance reader and a romance lover to like the, meeting and falling in love stage of romance, but obviously not completely, because I've never written, for example, Alexia and Connell, I never wrote their meeting stage. You guys never got the hedgehog incident. It's just referred to in the background. And that was kind of intentional because I was poking fun at the very trope that I'm now writing, which is the idea that you sort of meet and fall in love so quickly. So I do enjoy new relationship energy, would be one way of putting it. And it is very fun to write because it's exciting to write about, it's exciting to live, and it's exciting for you guys to read about. But I also like older love. I'm a real huge fan of a trope of people who have known each other and been friends together for a really long time, eventually falling in love with each other. The Emma trope from Austen. But I would like to write one of those. So yeah, I guess. I mean, when I write Biffy and Lyle, it will be returning lovers after 20 years of separation. So it really depends on the characters, and it depends on what drives me, I guess. Karen says that she's now in love with Major Channing. Yes. Is Channing on the list to get his own story? Yeah. So Channing's a really fun character for me because I introduced him via Alexia as such, I won't use a bad word, but such a bad word, right? Channing is the ultimate arrogant aristocrat. But then you see, I hope, through Prudence a little bit, and then through Imogen, that he has this other level to him. And that's something I always really like to explore. I like to explore characters that when you're in the head of one point of view character like Alexia, you see him one way because that's what he's showing to her, and that's how he's relating to her. And that's and perhaps it's something about her that set him off. Perhaps there's some underpinning. And you can see this if you have a wide group of friends, at least I hope you can, which is like there'll be some person in your friendship group that you're just like, I don't understand why everybody likes that person so much. And maybe it's chemistry, or maybe it's, or dislikes that person so much. Like I happen to really like abrasive people, for example. I get along with them really well, possibly because I am abrasive myself. So exploring a character from different point of views is always really exciting to me. And I use Lord Akaldama, for example, to do that a lot. So each point of view character meets Lord Akaldama and has a different reaction to him. Alexia perceives him one way, Sophronia perceives him differently, and Prudence perceives him completely differently again, which is one of the reasons that Prudence is the only character who can figure out who he really is. And so Channing is kind of the same. I've used him much less. He's much more of a side character. But I've always really been excited to explore what sort of woman, and it would be a woman, it would take to tame him, because he obviously needs a strong hand. So yeah, I will be writing him. I just overhauled what my schedule looks like for next year writing-wise, and I'm still waiting on the contract for Custard Protocol 3, and until I know when I get it and when it's going to be due, I can't really figure out what else I'm going to write, except for all I know is what I've already written this year, basically. So, and what I've written this year turned out to be this new book. But Channing is definitely on the short list. So it's going to be probably, I won't make any promises, but it's probably going to be Biffy and Lyle first, and then I think Channing. But in there I have to fit Custard Protocol once I have a contract for it, if I get a contract for it. So yeah, it's kind of that way. Right. I'm sorry. I'm trying to catch all of your questions. Jessica wants to know if I enjoy writing the novellas or novels more. The negatives of both. Well, one of the reasons I decided to do novellas is because I read a lot of novellas. I really, really like them. And I was actually thinking about this as I was driving here. I realized that so far my novellas, and I think my plans are, in future, at least for the next one, to have them rather closed, the novellas. So they're, in other words, and I mean literally spatially. So Poison or Protect is a house party, and without intending it, Romancing the Inventor kind of turned into a house party kind of thing too. I mean, Imogen does leave at one point, but most of it really takes place in one place. And I think maybe I'm drawing on Gothic tropes for that. I always like the Gothics. But I think also there's something about the novella length that wants me to have them be less sprawling. And maybe I'm playing with that limited spatial point of view because the Custard Protocol books are so very broad. They're very large, ranging adventures because they are, by their very nature, in motion, because they all take place in a dirigible. So that's just an idea. I love the novellas because I can complete them quickly. And like, that's a very brash way of putting it, but I do like that, and I like to be able to tie up loose ends with the novellas, which is mostly what I've been using them for, to take side characters that I want to give happy ever afters to, but can't because it just doesn't fit in the context of the plot of the novel or the novels that I plan to write, so I have to handle them separately. And a novella length is pretty great for that. The novels you get tucked in way more thoroughly. And so it's more complicated to write, but you can tackle much larger issues, comedic moments. You can set up much broader character arcs. So I guess there are positives and negatives to both. But I really do like the novella a lot. Perhaps I'm helped by one of the downsides with novellas is character development, and perhaps I'm helped quite a bit along by the fact that I'm reusing, in some cases, older characters that everybody knows, or in all cases, at least one character that everyone knows. So I might be cheating a little on the novella. I'm looking through your questions. Will we see Imogen in future books? I don't know. That's a really good question. It's possible. I never rule anybody out, obviously. All of my characters are constantly showing up. It's a little hard to keep track of at this juncture. Biffy and Lyle are coming, guys. Stop worrying. The problem with Biffy and Lyle, and I've said this before, is that because they show up in so many books, there's a lot for me to reread and remember because I forget things completely that I've written. It's 16 books, you guys. It's really hard to keep it all in the brain. I do have it all written down and on the wiki, and but I do forget. So, and I want to make sure I get the voices right. Although, of course, both of them will have changed after 20 years. I mean, you saw a little bit of Lyle and you saw a little bit of Biffy in the Custard Protocol books, if you're caught up on those. And that's one of the reasons I had to wait for Biffy and Lyle, is that book, the reunion book, is going to the story is going to take place after Imprudence. So you will need to be caught up on the Custard Protocol. I mean, it might spoil it a little bit, but you won't understand some of the pack dynamics if you're not caught up on Custard Protocol. Because Biffy has become an alpha, and as a result of that, he's changed his personality a bit, but he's had to. He's had 20 years to learn how to do it, and he's had to do it in order to hold a pack together. So that'll change anybody being put into a rulership position. All right, I'm gonna move forward into comments now, guys, because I'm getting a little confused on them. So if you asked me one and I didn't answer, just ask it again, okay? Ty wants to see Imogen in the Channing novella. This is another thing with the Channing one. So I think it's probably going to take place, I don't know, but I had originally thought it would take place congruently. So late 1870s, 1880s. So before Custard Protocol. But I'm not sure if I can do that in terms of the Biffy and Lyle story. So it's balancing act. Always a balancing act. Leanne has the manga question, the inevitable manga question. No, not that I know of. I'd be totally open to having more mangas made of any of my books. But that doesn't seem likely. I don't think they did well enough. I mean, they did fine, but I don't think they did well enough to heavily pursue. And Rem, my artist, really wanted to just do something else. She got kind of burned out, which I can kind of understand. You know, you're living and drawing somebody else's characters for so long. You want to do something else. But I'm totally would love it. It was the single best publishing experience I've ever had was that manga experience. I really enjoyed it immensely. And I'm really honored because frankly, so few authors get any kind of graphic novel adaptation. Only the super big names get it. And I'm not big enough, frankly. But I got one and I'm really jealous. And I lord it over my epic fantasy friends all the time because they all come out of comic book reading and I'm like, nanner. It's great. Ty wants to know, writing out characters like Madame LeFou, as in the modern sense of the word out, they know what their sexuality is, versus discovering character, Alexia. Oh, Prim. Okay. Well, wow. I don't even think about them under those contexts, I guess. I don't know. I mean, Madame LeFou, one of the reasons everyone is so attracted to her, I think, is because she is so confident in the world, in her preference. Sorry, guys. It's 5 o'clock. They throttle the internet on in my neighborhood at 5 when people start getting home from work because they can. Because welcome to the Bay Area where they monkey with your internet all the time. So I don't think about the characters as being out or being discovering. I knew Primrose's sexual orientation from the get-go. So for those of you who haven't been reading the Custard Protocol books, you're in for a surprise or not. So she wasn't I wasn't discovering it with her, I guess. Alexia, I guess I was a little bit. I didn't realize. But then, like, of course she's gonna flirt with Madame LeFou. Like, who would not flirt with Genevieve, right? Everyone, as far as I'm concerned, would flirt with Genevieve if she was flirting with you. So, the fact that Alexia was really actually interested came as a little bit of a surprise to me. Sometimes my characters surprise me, but not too much of a surprise. But Alexia is the type of personality that would acknowledge it. So I guess I don't really approach them differently. I've never had a character surprise me with their sexual orientation. I also knew that Lyle was bisexual, in case there was any question. And I also knew Alessandro was. So when I wrote those characters from the get-go, I knew both of those things about them. Oh, Hannah wants to know if Prussia has kids. You're going to have to read, yeah. Spoiler. Brittany wants to know, do I have a master list or what order to read the books or novellas in? Could I put one together? This is a bone of contention amongst the group, actually. They've talked about it a couple of times here as to whether you ought to read The Parasol Protectorate before the finishing school or not. I don't know because I have only the order I've written these things in. So I think the list, if I put one together, would be a chronological list. In other words, in-world chronology in which the books occur. And what I've started to do in the novellas is date the opening chapter so you know exactly when they're set. But I'll make a note right now and throw one together. I think there's a chronological list on the wiki. Oh! My room's falling apart! I think there's a chronological list on the Wikipedia. There should be. I could get that link for you if you like. But I'll make a note. That's probably a good idea. I can have my website set it up that way too. But that would be the list that I would go for because I'm a completist in terms of when I approach like a complicated world like Mercedes Lackey. I like to read in chronological order rather than written order. But it's a bone of contention as to whether you should do that or not. Chronological list of books. Yeah, as we get the novellas like slotting in here or there in between the series or even in between books of the series I should definitely do some sort of chronological list. Short story of the finishing school reunion tea party. well, I do, Ty knows this one, but I do have plans eventually. It will probably be a ways away of doing an interwoven series with Sidheg and Sophronia, kind of meeting with temporal gaps. It's going to be really complicated to write, but it would be like when Sidheg comes back in Changeless, but right before Changeless, when Sidheg comes back to London after Niall having died, Sophronia would obviously be there and would meet her and would want to talk to her and console her. And then, yeah, guess who's setting up the fact that Sidheg and Madame LeFou then have to pretend not to know one another in Changeless, right? So you have Sophronia is there in the background through a lot of these books, kind of wiggling things around, and I want to do it with Sidheg as the main character, to kind of retell little bits and bobs about things that happened with gaps. But that's going to be incredibly complicated to do. But I could certainly slot some sort of reunion tea in there, at least with some of them. Ty has a master list. Of course Ty has a master list. Thank you, Ty. I don't know when you got kicked out, Ty, so I can't re-answer your question. So the reunion tea party we've done. Yeah, I'm sorry, we're having technical difficulties. Yes, someone points out that there's a handy chronological list of Genevieve's appearances in all the different books on her Wikipedia page. And guess who had to write that? That would be me, because I was trying to figure everything out during romancing the Inventor. So, yeah. I often am tinkering with the wiki because I actually use it as my world Bible now. I'm sorry, you guys. It's probably my fault at this juncture because it's 5 o'clock. This is the problem with holding the live long enough for people to get off work elsewhere, is that when people start getting off work in California, the internet usage goes to shit. Gives me time to spill water all over myself. Any other questions? Or are we just totally royally having an issue with the technology? Are we back? I'm trying, guys. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's coming on midnight for some people. It's all over the place. Joan wants to know about the book covers. Do I get to pick out the models for the characters or have any say on them? You can rewatch it, but if it's a lag my end, then the video will be bad either way. So, tea for romancing the Inventor, English breakfast. It's always English breakfast. Was Genevieve, I think Genevieve was a little bit in love with Alexia, yes. Am I coming to Toronto? I would love to because I have 2 really good friends there. Any more future books of what? You're going to have to re-answer that question. Will I be writing about Ivy's Hive? I'd love to, but no concrete plans at the moment. From Guam! Oh my goodness, we got people all over the place. Now, before I did that, quick 20 questions. What was that question? Oh, cover art. So, do I have any choice on the cover art? If it's a traditionally published novel, like this, then sometimes they will consult me when they am choosing the models. In the case of the Finishing School books, they did. In the case of the Parasol Protectorate books, yes, but that's a very long story that I've told before at live events, and it's not all that exciting. There's a blog post about it. You can look up How Did Soulless Get Its Cover on Google, and I will talk all about how that happened, because it was a crazy story that involves Donna Ricci and all sorts of other awesomeness. For the Custard Protocol books, I did not have a choice in the model, but by this time we'd done 8 books, so I was like, whatever. For my self-published books, like this one, I pick them. So that's exactly what I want, and sometimes it takes me a long time, more time to find the cover model than it does to do anything else, and that's a delay tactic. You'll be happy to know that I've already found the cover for the Biffy and Lyle book, so no delay will occur. It's just me writing it. Oh my gosh, someone's tuning in from England. Everybody's from all over the place. Coming to Norway. Well, I was going to go to Helsinki, which is not Norway, but close, but I am not going to make it. However, I will be in Denmark next year. So if you want to do a little road trip down south, you can come and see me in Navsvedad, I think it is, for a Danish book festival. It's on the website's event page. Israel? Jeez Louise, people are from all over the place. This is crazy. So does it get difficult holding everything in my head? While I'm writing, not so much. I use Scrivener, and Scrivener allows you to keep notes and character profiles, images, and all this stuff kind of within the same program that you're writing in. So when I'm actually writing a book, I do that. For example, I know I want to start writing the Biffy and Lyle book soon, so I actually went to the Wikia and ganked a bunch of information on those characters and started character profiles within the Scrivener doc that I'm going to be working out of, so that I could, so I don't have to have internet access while I'm working, so I can work on planes and things like that. Is Madame LeFou made of parts of me? Yeah, she is a little bit of me. I don't have dimples. Although I'd love to have dimples. The green eyes, a little bit. Yeah, I might have had an ex who might have had me dress up. Let's just say it that way. Yeah, she's a little bit of me. All of my main characters tend to be a little bit of me. Let's be frank. I'm an author. We stick ourselves in, whether we like it or not. Then I love cross-dressing characters, and I realized recently that I should probably blame like Shakespeare for this. Although, yeah, because Viola's always been one of my favorites. But I always have blamed Tamora Pierce for this. I love cross-dressing characters. Although most of the cross-dressing characters have always been straight, which then confuses me. So that's one of the reasons I wrote Madame LeFou. And then I was very informed by Georges Sand, the French novelist. There's a bunch of cross-dressing novelists out there who informed Madame LeFou when I was writing her. And then, of course, some of the drag kings of the late Victorian and Edwardian era, like Vesta Tilley. So different stages of my development. Yeah, so Madame LeFou would be a late stage development then. I have talked about the fact that I pulled on a lot of my own experiences when writing the different characters from different times in my life. So Sophronia is high school, obviously. I was very much sort of more introverted and an observer, and I really got excited and interested in social manipulation and I started building my first friendship group and having my first really close friends when I was in high school. So I draw on a lot of that for Sophronia. And then Alexia was sort of me at the time I was writing her, so in my 30s, like a more established personhood and very much more confident in myself, but searching for my place kind of job-wise and in the universe. And then Prudence is the college years, when you're away from home. And the most recent book, I really delved into the kind of heartbreaking exploration of what happens when you go away and you really are formulating your own person. And then you go back and you try to remember what childhood was like, which was for me a very formative kind of collegiate experience. And part and parcel with that was going home to see my parents, and to see my parents for the first time as individuals rather than just my parents, but also to see them as old. Like, it wasn't until I went away to college and came back that I was like, oh, my parents are gonna get old. And I think that's part of the collegiate experience, and that's part of kind of what I put Ruth through in Prudence, although of course I'm an author, so I did it a lot worse. Made it a lot more extreme. Have I ever done NaNoWriMo? So since I knew of NaNoWriMo, which has been the last 10 years, so it falls during finals. So the first couple of years for Nano that I learned about it, I was a professor, and so I had to give finals, so like I was grading. November's just the worst month. So I didn't do Nano then, and then since then I've had a book release in November a lot. World Fantasy is always in November, which is one of the cons I try to go to every year. I didn't make it this year, but I try to go to it every year. And so when I had the finishing school books come out for 4 years or 3 years, I had a book drop in November, and it's just like they put me on tour. I can't write when I'm on tour. I mean, I can do a little bit on airplanes and stuff, but it's really, really hard. And I couldn't until I became a Scrivener author, and Scrivener developed iOS, and now I can, but it's still not. I don't think I could keep it up. I'm not against it. I love Nano. I think it's a great thing to do and get involved with. I'm a social author, so I like the social aspect of it. I like hanging out with people and writing. I'm probably going to go to a Nano this Sunday before I come and do my next live, just to hang out with other authors and write. I also like mentoring a lot. So, I think it helps authors not make mistakes if they have another author who's kind of been through the ringer there, who they can just ask questions. And I try to be kind of open and accessible to new writers in that way, especially in person. It's harder for me to mentor and coach online because body language is something, obviously I'm like Italian or something. I'm not, but I pretend to be. And facial expressions, I'm a pretty animated person, so I'd rather like one-on-one and talking to people when I'm helping new authors. So you'll see me post a little bit on the blog, some Nano posts and some helpful tips posts and things like that, but I prefer to do that kind of thing in person. So the Nano question is that November, I have always had a chunk of time that I just lose to book promo or an event of some kind, and I just wouldn't be able to make it up in order to do those 50K. But I totally would do it if I ever have a November off, which looks like it will never happen, as I'm going to Singapore for 10 days soon. So yeah, so I couldn't do it this year. Do I write full-time? Yeah, I'm a full-time author. I went full-time in the end of 2012. I was so close. I was about to do quals, which for archaeology you have to do a linguistic qual, and then a theological qual, qualification exam, viva, oral exam. But and then I would have started my thesis. So I was in the 4th year. I would have had two more years if I busted balls to finish my thesis when I left to be a full-time author instead. Who was Madame LeFou's first crush? Well, you saw Madame LeFou's first crush very slightly. She has a little dance with her in Waistcoats and Weaponry or Manners and Mutiny? Manners and Mutiny, the last one, I think. Yeah, so that first crush also was her first and major love. She probably had some others in there. I mean, she's flirty and wildly attractive, so. Am I enjoying globe-trotting? Hannah wants to know. So one of the things I do is I get a lot. I'm not trying to be like, what's the word I'm looking for? Self-aggrandizing or anything, but I get invited to a lot of conventions and I turn down a lot of them now because it would be more than I can handle. I do burn out pretty easily on too much traveling, and it's the traveling that does it almost as much as the event itself. But what I do is when I get an international convention, and I do try to do one of those a year, I piggyback a vacation on it because I do really love seeing. Well, let's be honest. I like eating food in foreign countries. That's really all I care about. We were talking about Singapore and my partner says, honey, what do you want to do in Singapore? And I said, I want to eat all the things. I was like, that's pretty much it. I'd like to swim in an infinity pool and eat all the things. Just point and eat. That's all. Like, we can go to architecture and botanical gardens and whatever you want, but I want to eat all the things. And that's how I approach all of my international travel. It's kind of my reason for living, guys. I'm always heavily complimented when somebody says that my books made them hungry. So yeah, it does get tiring. Next year, I'm trying to take a couple of months. So usually I do one event a month, and next year I'm actually trying to take a couple of months off, and I'm doing 2 months where I do a writing retreat instead of an event, which is way more productive for me. Yeah. So, and I'd like to actually sacrifice 3 months to writing retreats if I could find. I have 2 retreats now. I'm hoping that one of those is going to be brand new for me this year. One of them will be my 3rd year. At the new retreat, I'm hoping it works out, and I'm trying to do that one every single year from here. And then I'd like to add a 3rd one to that if I possibly can. Add more kinds of paranormal characters to the Parasolverse. Well, I'm sticking pretty closely to shapeshifted characters and blood or cadaverous, what's the word I'm like, cannibalistic characters that exist in mythologies of the places that Prudence travels to. So I have some ideas to add more that stay kind of within the bounds of that. I'm not into the Fae. I'm not quite sure how else to put it. I wouldn't rule it out, but I've never been big on Underhill and the city, or however you want to pronounce it. It's got a little bit too much of a rabid fan following for me. Pointy ears, not my thing. Tall, pale, lust, but like cold types sucking you under green rolling hills is not my thing. Sorry. But I don't rule out like the seal shifters, brain, noodles. So yeah, there's definitely possibilities for others. Have you always been a member of RWA? RWA is new for me. So when I first wrote Solus, I had a friend of a friend came up to me at a party and said, you should join RWA. Our local chapter is amazing here in the Bay Area. And I said, okay, maybe I'll think about it. Not sure, confused by life. And thought about it for years. Didn't do it. And then I actually got pretty disenchanted with SFWA, SFWA, which is the science fiction writers. And for a couple of political reasons, it's kind of old guard. Not a lot of ladies, shall we say. And I was getting a little exhausted just dealing with... It's not... I wasn't like... There's no major prejudice or anything. It just felt like they were kind of out of touch. That's the way to put it. And I was a little kind of upset with the fact that the Science Fiction Writers Society was out of touch with the way the industry was going. I do think they do good things. I'm not slamming them. I think the Grievance Council and the Emergency Medical Fund and things like the SFWA does do were great. And I faithfully belonged and paid my dues for about 20 years. And then recently I got disenchanted, and then the Nebulas happened, and women swept the Nebulas, which is the SFWA Awards, and I was basically like, right when I left. But, so that happened, and then all of my writing friends, and I like to get together with friends locally who are also authors and just write in a cafe, quietly sitting across from each other writing. They all just got driven out of the Bay Area because of the cost of living here has just gotten crazy. So a lot of my freelance friends just have all moved out of the area. And so I was kind of searching for new authors to just like get together with and talk to and just have water cooler moments. It's pretty lonely being an author. So, and my partner's not in the industry at all. So I thought, okay, we'll look back into RWA. And it's been fantastic. I love it. I can't, like, words cannot describe how wonderful my chapter is. I love them so much. I'm the PAN liaison. I even took on a volunteer position because I love them so much. Yeah, it's a bunch of like capable, powerful, incredibly confident women who are really have their finger on the pulse of what's going on in publishing, particularly independent and self-publishing right now. And yeah, it was the best thing I did this last year. I'll be a year, actually. This last month was my first year as an RWA member, and I love them. And I would love to go to nationals at some point. Again, RWA, it's always a matter of if I have another event planned. Yeah, so for those of you who are authors who are tuning in, RWA is the Romance Writers of America. It's kind of like a guild. It isn't really, but it's kind of like a guild for romance authors. But they're pretty open about that definition. In fact, anybody can join RWA. You don't have to have published. You know, you can get into different levels of RWA after you have published. And Nationals is the big meetup. and I just, I really want to go sometime. So I love RWA, but no, I've only been a member for a year. When, sorry, going back. Sorry, guys. Oh, shoot. Stop it. Okay, stop asking questions for a moment, all right? And I'll do, like, the quick answer. Add more kinds of paranormals, RWA. Would I recommend archaeology as a career if writing isn't in your blood? I wouldn't recommend writing as a career, frankly. It's a lot of work. And even if you're brilliant and a genius and amazing, you won't necessarily make a living at it. So I'd recommend it if you have a patron, as in makes a good retirement plan. No, that's terrible. I like writing, but you have to be very smart about it as a career. You have to make sure you have an emergency funds saved up. You have to be really careful. Don't have too many dependents. Like, yeah, I'm a big don't quit your day job person until you have your 6 months living expenses saved up. Archaeology is great if you're passionate about it, but it is like any, what's the word I'm looking for? Academic career, in that you gotta fight the politics of academia. You have to fight for your concession. You have to be strong and power through a lot of crap, frankly, in academia. And you have to love it. I don't know any professional archaeologist who it isn't like the be-all end-all of the love of their life. Like, they are born and raised archaeologists. And I'm one of those. Like, I still think of myself most of the time as an archaeologist, and I still miss it. I don't miss academia, though. And you have to be willing to teach. And the other thing I used to tell all of my students is you got to be able to eat anything. If you're a picky eater, archaeology, not for you. You can go into CRM, cultural resource management, what we in academia would call shovel jockeys, but it's not good money. And it's even worse politics. What would my thesis have been? I'm a technological innovatist, so I'm very interested in transition technology from one form of tech to another. So what causes a culture, for example, to abandon one style of tool for a different tool, or one kind of pottery for what you might consider a technologically superior or more advanced form of pottery, or the opposite direction. And I actually explored that in the finishing school series, because that's what we call voluntary abandonment in archaeology, and it's totally fascinating to me, which is when culture, and this happens more than you think, is introduced to an advanced technology but won't integrate it and accept it, and then, or does, and then abandons it later. This happened in parts of England, for example, with the Roman pottery, with Roman throwing wheel technology. So, yeah, that was kind of what I was exploring. I don't know what I would have focused on area-wise. Probably would have been a pretty theological thesis. I would have incorporated a lot. Being a materials expert, I have a MS, a Master's of Science in Analysis of Artifacts. So my expertise is in ceramics. So rather than a specific area. So I used to excavate it in lots of different places rather than just one place. So my thesis would have explored that technological innovation. But part of my struggle was that I was really trying to come up with something specific for my PhD, and I wasn't having a great deal of luck with that. Sorry, guys. I had a great time at Gaslight. You guys were awesome. Gaslight Gathering in San Diego is one of the best steampunk events. You guys go if you're in the area. It was so much fun. What's my favorite food that I've ever eaten? Alpaca. I had it in the highlands of Peru when I was excavating there. It's delicious. It's the Kobe beef of the pork world. It tastes like this incredibly short-grained, extremely tender pork. And yeah. I will eat anything that is passion fruit flavored. It's my favorite flavor. And in the Highlands of Peru, you can get pint glasses of maracuya, which, yeah, my last meal would be alpaca steak with a pepper cream sauce wrapped in bacon and a pint glass of maracuya. Man, delicious. Ty wants to know, when did Imogen come to me? When did I know I wanted to tell her story? Well, I started writing Romancing the Inventor as a swapped POV between Imogen and Genevieve, and it just wasn't working for me. And I realized that was because Imogen wanted to be dominant. And it was when I realized that Imogen was a parlor maid in the Hive that her story just kind of snapped into place. So I needed her job, I guess, for her to... And then I had to come up with like, oh, of course. So she would have heard all of these rumors about vampires, and she would have intentionally like put herself at risk in order to discover more about herself. And once I knew that about her personality, like everything just flowed right after it. Sorry. Writing about magic. No, don't like magic. It falls under the Fae thing. In fact, the contemporary book that I'm working on right now is, I started out putting magic in it, and then I had to like morph it into something else. It's called Quintessence, and it acts a little bit like magic, but I had to come up with some pseudoscientific explanation for it because magic just frustrates me. I'm really rule bound. I would have made a great DM, probably a dungeon master. That's probably what I am meant to be in life, but I don't do tabletop. But I love making rules for my world, and I love building them, and magic always seems to defy the world rules. So unless I could come up with a really cool and unique magical system, and I mean unique, then I don't see it happening. I have a fantasy series that has a very complicated magical system in it, but yeah, did I eat guinea pigs? We're leaving magic aside. Did I eat guinea pigs? Stop asking questions, you guys. I gotta get to the ones I've already been asked. Yes, I ate guinea pigs. They taste exactly how you think they would taste. They taste like a rabbit meets a pork. They're crunchy. There's not a lot of meat on them. I like them. They're a little oily. They're very tasty. They're done in a big brick oven, and they're very crispy. I like crispy skin. So yeah, I recommend the guinea pig. Delicious. Pet alpacas. Well, if your alpaca dies, you now know what to do with it. Major Channing story is coming. You have to rewatch the feed. We already talked about it. Learning to read hieroglyphs as a hobby. They're actually not too complicated. I used to be a docent tourer and did some curation at the Egyptian Museum in San Jose. So yeah. Egyptology. The problem with Egyptology, so I originally wanted to go into Egyptology. The problem is there's not a lot left to be found out, and you're stuck dealing with concessions in Egypt, which is a mess, especially if you're a female. Congratulations, Hannah, on going back to university. Do it! Do it! It is fun. Man, I'm a lifelong learner, so... Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to crush your author spirit. Actually, I do mean to crush your author spirit. You gotta fight for it. Like, it's really a brutal lifestyle, and it's brutal work to be a full-time author. So, like, you gotta be prepared to fight for it. And if, like, me saying something disheartens you, then do something easier. No, I think you can do it. You just have to be prepared to stick up for yourself a lot. Independent bookstores. So the thing about me on book tour, which I hope not to do that many more of, actually, this last book tour was pretty brutal, is that the bookstore, this is a secret of the industry, has to be New York Times reporting, or my publishing house, my traditional publisher, won't send me there. Because the whole point of putting me on book tour is so I can make the New York Times. Frankly, it's a little, I don't know, short-sighted of them, but that's the reason. So if your local bookstore isn't NYT reporting, then I won't go. And I also should say that the bookstores that get me have big turnouts. So like I go back to Powell's every year because 150 people come to see me at Powell's. So that's like worth my time, and my time meaning like that's 2 days out of my life not writing just to fly up there and go to Powell's and do all that thing, and that doesn't discount all the like exhaustion either end. So yeah, it's hard to get me to go to just a bookstore in an area because it's expensive all around if there isn't a big turnout. Okay, I think I'm finally getting caught up on the questions. I will be an author. There you go. That is the right attitude. That's the attitude. Just like keep saying that to yourself. My eyeliner looks good. Thank you. I love those pens that have like the felt tips on it. They have saved my life for the cat eyeliner. Would you eat a sheep head? I will eat anything. My philosophy on food is I will eat anything 3 times on the theory that the first 2 times it hasn't been cooked properly. Which means there are very few things that I don't eat, and even the ones I don't eat, I occasionally will keep trying. Just love food. It could be the greatest thing ever. Recently I had sea snails, whelks, or winkles, both of which are the little ones. Whelks are the big ones, winkles are the little ones. Oh my god, they're so good. They're not slimy like escargot at all, though I do like escargot. They're kind of like a firm scallop, but they taste like a scallop had a love child with an artichoke heart. They're so good. I love seafood. Seafood is my favorite. I think it's because I would like to think it is because, or I'm going to blame my ethnic heritage on it, because I come from 2 island nations. So, seafood. You don't need to be scared of publishers. I mean, Hannah says that she's written something and she's scared of submitting it because of publishers. Like, the worst that's going to happen is they're going to reject it. You need to be scared of reviewers because they're going to be way meaner. So the fear factor should happen at the tag end of that. Yeah, the worst that happens with the publisher is they just say, this is not for us. And it legitimately might not be for us. And usually, this is not for us is code for, we don't think it can sell it. Because the publishers are not judging you on the quality of your work. They're judging you on your marketability. They're a company, and it's their bottom line that they're watching out for. And I don't think they should be faulted for that. But you shouldn't ever take a rejection personally. Pals is awesome. We love Pals. How many hours do I spend writing a day? It kind of depends on where I am with the project. So right now, since I've been promoting this book, I haven't been writing as much. But if I'm on a deadline for any reason, whether it's a self-imposed deadline for one of my novellas or if it's something for traditional publishing for my publishing house, then it's usually 2,000 words a day. And I've allowed myself to do that for I used to do 2,000 words a day, 5 days a week, but I really need a whole day now to do business and catch up in social media and often recovery from an event or something. So I now do Mondays. Not writing unless I'm just on such an epic deadline that I really need to. So it's 2,000 words a day usually. So it works somewhere in the vicinity of 8,000 a week. And if I'm on a writing retreat, I can quadruple that on a good day. So that's one of the reasons writing retreats are so important to me. Siva says that I have eaten, we're back to the food thing. I've eaten eyeballs. I like things that pop in my mouth. I like caviar and fish roe and yeah. Although lately I've been eating a low salt diet, not me, household imposed. And so everything that's salty tastes like a bazillion times saltier to me. So the salt thing might be a turnoff with the sheep head. How fast do I write? Well, so there's the 2,000 words a day. So the speed of writing is a very interesting question because the 2,000 words a day is a rough draft. And I am a great believer in Mer Lafferty, who has the I Should Be Writing podcast and who's a very good friend of mine. I'm a great believer in her philosophy, which is give yourself permission to suck. So for the rough draft, nothing matters but getting those 2,000 words on the page. So at the end of the document, it's really a rough draft. Like nobody sees that, no one, because it is barely readable. And then I go back through and I do 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 or 6 passes myself before it then goes out to my alpha readers and my editors and stuff. So as much as time I spend writing, I spend self-editing. So that's why it takes me so long to write something. So 2,000 words a day, I could probably churn out things pretty quickly, but I have to go back and do multiple edit pass on those 2,000 words. So, that's why it's several months for a novella and 8 months to a year for a novel. And the other thing I really like to do if I have any kind of time for it is to let a book sit for a month. Because if I can get a little space from it and do something else or write something else or start the outline for something else, then when I come back to it, I catch way more errors and I get the voice and the flow better on a second read through. When writing romance, do I find the physical or the emotional aspect of this story more difficult? The emotional aspect is actually pretty easy for me. You guys may have noticed that I really like wrenching heartstrings and mucking with emotions. So emotions come really easy for me to write. The nookie, I've said it before and I'll say it again, is really difficult for me. And one of the reasons I chose to tackle romance is because it's challenging. I think it's really hard to write a quality sex scene. And I don't write explicit, obviously, I'm not writing erotica. But I do think it's very challenging, and I find it very challenging. So you'll notice that I put a lot of humor into my sex scenes, partly for that, partly because in my life it's been that way. I think sex and fun go together. So I try to relay that. I also take my responsibilities as an author who writes for younger readers very seriously, and I want women to know things when they're reading my books. Not necessarily as a message, but just being like, look, you can ask for what you want, you can have a good time, you can take control. Like a lot of things that I just think it's important for younger girls to know about having relationships. Do I ever have ideas I'm scared to put into writing? Is there anything that I wouldn't write because I'm thinking, dang, my mother will read this? And my mother is the one person in my family who reads it. No, my mom is a 60s child, so meh. She's probably seen it all. I do have reservations about writing certain things, yeah. And those certain things tend to be things with which I have no direct personal experience, either through friends or family or my own life. I've had a pretty wild, crazy, and fabulous life. I've been lots of places. I've done lots of things. But, for example, I like to write about places that I've actually visited. And that's not... And I'm writing historical stuff, so of course it's not the same. But the smell and the light and the feel, and to use a very hippie word, the energy of a location is something that it's really hard to tap into just on Google Maps or reading about a place. I really like to go there. So, and I kind of feel like that about other life experiences too. So I tend to not necessarily write about things that I've actually done, but kind of, I don't know, it's hard to describe. So yeah, there are certainly experiences that I would struggle to write about. For example, a straight male character. I kind of feel like, I mean, I could talk to a lot of my straight male friends, but I don't feel like I can tap into that mentality really well. Ever have writer's block? I don't believe in writer's block. People hate me for saying that, but I don't believe in it. And that is because you can always write something. So if it's a description of a ball that might happen in 5 chapters, if it's a dress, if it's a fight scene, just write it down. You can always write something. There's always something. And I think that helps that I am an outliner. So I always know what's going to happen. So I always know there's a scene and I'm allowed to skip around. I can do whatever I want to get those 2,000 words on the page. I've always have ideas. I've always got news story ideas. I just don't seem to, maybe I don't believe in it for me. I'm sure it is, but I'm not an erotic writer either. I don't really get caught up in my own head. So, you know, maybe it's in my future, but I've never had it happen. Bye, Hannah. Thanks for joining us. What inspires me? Apparently, like, inconvenient places where I can't write inspire me the most, like when I'm driving or in the shower or in a hot tub with my friends. That's what inspires me, because that's what I will come up with in the middle of the night. Always the middle of the night inspires me, and I will have to like creep out into the living room and scrawl notes. So yeah, honestly, pretty much anything will inspire me. I'm one of those people who I dictate into my phone a lot, because I'll pass something or do something or hear something or see something that I'm like, oh, that's an idea. I'm an ongoing collection of notes that never seems to end. Usually, if I'm enmeshed in a story that I'm writing at the time, a lot of the things that are happening around me will kind of like pertain to that story, which is sort of fun. When I kill characters, do you count undeath? Does it count as killing a character to me? No. That's an easy answer. I mean, I think the character, part of that character dies. They change personalities when they become undead because they lose their creativity and such. But but I don't count it as killing a character, which means I don't kill that many characters. I tend to operate under the Greek chorus style of killing a character, which means it happens off stage. Although I suppose I have broken that with the Custard Protocol, but I tend to not kill characters. In fact, I like to joke that you can't leave George R. R. Martin and I too long in a room together because we'll annihilate each other like matter and antimatter. Because I never kill characters, and he kills all of them. Would I write a character about Rue and the twins as teens? Oh, that would be fun. I had no intention of it. So one of the things to know is I'm not contractually bound to this, but as a general rule, it's not a good idea for me to self-publish a short story or a novella with a main character from one of the traditionally published series. Once they've lied low for a bit, I could probably do it, but it would probably not, it would not be politic for me to do it. And I also tend to feel like with a main character, once I've finished with their series, I'm finished. Like, their story's been told. Now, Rue's ongoing, so I'm still sort of in her head. But she's not going to be the point of view character for the next Custard Protocol book. Will we ever get to see suffragettes? I've thought about it. So, suffragettes in England... Ty's like, you've killed 9 characters. Okay, sorry. Could be worse. Will I ever get to see suffrage? We ever get to see... Oh, that's right, Niall died. I did kill a lot of characters. Sorry. Suffragettes. I've thought about it. I mean, Felicity joins the National Women's Movement. So they're there. I don't rule it out, but I haven't thought about incorporating it yet. I'm very into the suffragette movement. I'm always fascinated. I always watch all the movies that come out about them and stuff, but I haven't had a character tickle me, I suppose I should say. All right, guys, how long have we been going for? I don't know, but I think maybe we should... Oh my gosh, almost an hour. You're not supposed to do Facebook Lives for this long. Any last burning questions? I can do like rapid fire if you've got them. Will each finishing series girl get her own novella? That's kind of the plan. Well, Sophronia probably will not. Dimity will definitely, I'm definitely thinking about. Agatha, I think Felix might get his own. So, hey, that's one for the books, as it were. So yeah, I'm thinking about most of them getting their own book. But definitely, I think Dimity is probably the next. Dimity or Agatha, one of those is the next one in my brain. What was it like for Alexia when Rue was a teen? Well, they have kind of a distanced relationship because Alexia has this sort of power over Rue that nobody else has. But I imagine that Alexia was frustrated with her most of the time. I think they probably had a lot of fights. I suspect they have that kind of mother-daughter relationship when Rue was a teenager. Yeah, that would be my impression. Who was my favorite character to write? Lord Akaldama is always my favorite character to write because he's easy. So when I put him in a scene, he just flows really easy. He's just really easy for me to write. I'm really comfortable writing him, so I'm happy to write Lord Akaldama. Last burning questions, guys, and I'm going to sign off soon. This has been awesome. This has been so much fun talking to you. I hope I got everybody's questions. I'm sorry if I missed them. There was a while there in the middle where it was coming thick and fast, and I couldn't pay attention to them all. So, I love you all too very much, and it's been awesome talking to you. And if you feel like coming back on Sunday, we're going to do this again. Yeah, I'm going to have to try to have shorter answers to things so I can get more questions dealt with. But for now, if there's no last burning questions, I'm going to leave you all to have wonderful evenings or mornings or days or whatever it is, wherever you are. And yes, bye guys.